Hi everybody, sorry about earlier with our technical difficulties, but we're here again. We're going to start off by talking with Dr. Romuald Afatchao from the Institute for Community Partnerships and Sustainable Development, or ICPSD, as you'll hear us refer to it. If you'll turn over to Ro here, can you tell us a little bit about ICPSD and the work that you're doing?
Yes, of course, I'll be happy to. ICPSD, or the long name, I like pronouncing all of it, is the Institute for Community Partnership and Sustainable Development. Just like the name says, it is an institute, or you can call it an organization that has for mission to basically set up partnership between various communities here in Africa and also communities here in Africa and other places, and also to provide incentive or to help with the general idea of sustainable development. So that's what the name comes in. So what do we do in general with ICPSD? We set out to create that kind of partnership and be able to bring skills that people really need here in order to develop. And also, we have this kind of philosophy or approach into development that basically says that people here know their problem better than anybody else. So we can come and tell them what their problems are and tell them how to fix them, right? So our approach is to be able to work with local communities to discover some of the problems that they have in the communities and be able to solve those problems as much as possible with the local resources. And if need be, then we can bring technical expertise and maybe funding from outside. But everything starts with the communities here in Africa. I think for a long time, development has been done in what I would call upside down, whereby problems are analyzed in New York, in DC, and other capitals across the globe. Resources are sent to various countries in Africa to solve the problem. The problem is that there is no ownership. So as you can see, even international organizations, bigger international organizations that are involved in development now have recognized that that approach has failed. So they're calling more and more for local people involvement in the problem solving in their communities. So ICPSD has this sort of approach to work with those local communities, to discover the problems together, even invite local researchers to be a part of it, discover that problem together, and then be able to find solution, locally adapted local solution. And if we need to bring outside expertise, then we can bring those expertise to work with the local. So in a nutshell, that's what ICPSD does.
Yeah, so you touched a little bit on some of the reasons why we did choose Togo is that we see it as the perfect combination of need as well as potential. So we see a lot of female entrepreneurship happening. We see a lot of people with great understanding of their own problems, but not necessarily the financial resources to begin tackling those on their own. So could you talk to us a little bit about Togo and some of the contexts that we're operating within?
Sure, yeah, I'll be happy to. Again, so Togo, for those who don't know Togo, because it's a tiny country in West Africa, it's a former German colony and then became a former French colony before getting its independence on April 27, 1960. And since then, Togo has been, on the trajectory of getting, getting a development in all the communities of the country. The problem is that Togo is very centralized, so most decisions come top down, and development approaches come at top down. But the government in the last, I would say the last 10, 15 years or so, has been trying to basically decentralize decision making and have ownership of development by various communities as much as possible. So we're still in that process right now of decentralization, whereby local communities, in various places of the country will be able to design their own their own development, and then they will have support from the central government in order to implement. But the government hasn't implemented all the decentralization that will be necessary for that kind of approach yet. However, various communities, and then with the support of non-governmental organizations from here and from abroad, have been trying to solve problems as much as they can. So in general, people in Togo are very welcoming and they're very hardworking. And I really wanted to have a special mention of women in Togo, women, girls, and everything, right? So Togolese women are known for being entrepreneurial, very, very spirited when it comes to entrepreneurship. They're also known for being hardworking. However, due to some cultural burden in various communities, it's very hard for girls to actually, move ahead, even though they have that kind of spirit. So any program that will seek to empower women in our community will be very welcome, because it will help unleash the creativity and the potentiality of all the girls in our community, especially those who want to go to apprenticeship, or those who wanted to go to finish schooling, go through school. Of course, there are some struggle when it comes to girls specifically, especially girls in school in our communities, because of some cultural issues, and also, yeah, let's face it, because of sexual harassment, through the school system. It's very hard for girls to move ahead. So any program that will be designed to help those girls move ahead, especially when it comes to providing them resources in order to to unleash that potentiality, will be welcome. I wanted to have a special mention also of the challenges that girls face in schooling, right? In our communities here, girls have the burden of house chores, right? For example, I grew up with a lot of my sisters. I come from a big family, and growing up, we the guys don't have it. Our folks didn't have any expectation for us for whatever is being done in the house. So my sisters will go and fetch water, and they will also make sure that we get breakfast, because before we go to school. And when we come from school at lunchtime, they will be the one cooking lunch and do everything. And on top of that, everybody expected them to get better results. Of course, obviously, it didn't work, because mostly the guys will get good grades, because the guys have time to study and do all kind of stuff. And in other families where they don't have enough resources, people will always how do you call it? Give those resources to boys instead of girls. And of course, obviously, because of some cultural context, also people believe that girls would marry and go to other families. As such, there will be a loss if you invest in them, and then the boys will always be here. But the reality is that both girls and boys can help their family. In fact, right now, if something happened to me, I bet you that my sisters will be here before any of my brothers show up. So there is that kind of cultural disparity, right? The disparity between the culture and the reality that we have to deal with also. So, in a nutshell, that's a little bit about my country and some of the challenges that girls face here in Togo.
Yeah, and earlier this week we went with a local girl named Ololo to learn a little bit more about some of those challenges that she faces. So typically Ololo wakes up at about 4 a.m. every day just to do some of her house chores, which include cleaning the house, cleaning her compound. She then goes to fetch water and then cook breakfast for all of her siblings. And then after that's done, she washes the dishes. She might have to go to the farm to get more food, and then clean again at the compound, all before going to school. So she has to do all of that work on top of walking to school. She faces some of the additional challenges that you mentioned, like sexual harassment at school that might be prevalent. She just has to work incredibly hard to get to school, and she's an aspiring nurse, but her family right now is having to have those hard discussions that she may have to drop out of school because her family doesn't have the financial means to continue her education. So a sponsorship from She could really change the trajectory of her life and could help her continue her education and continue aspiring to be the nurse and get her education that she deserves. So we'd like to talk to you more about some of the programs you'd like to see implemented here in Togo or in some of these communities, and what type of change you'd like to see from some of those programs.
Okay. Yeah, but before I address the challenges ahead or some of the programs that we would like to implement in Togo, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that are positive that are going on right now.
Absolutely.
So, I would say for the last 10 years or so, the government in Togo has been implementing programs to support girls in school. For example, I know that in grade school, there is no more tuition for girls at all, because they wanted to incentivize families to put their kids through school, right? And then with the support of some international organizations and some non-profit organizations from here and from abroad, there have been also some support in terms of school supply to some girls in some schools, not in all the schools in Togo, but in some schools. But it's not 100% coverage, right? So as such, and we mentioned a while ago the problem of sexual harassment. The government has been cracking down for a while now on some of those practices, right? And let's face it, it's not just in Togo, it happens in many communities, not just in Togo, but in Africa and other places. But the government has been really proactive in dealing with some of those issues, but the challenge we face is still there because I would call it the subculture, whereby girls have to struggle more because from heckling and then harassment and all those stuff. So it's a work in progress, and we hope that with the work we do and with the work that others do, with the work the government is doing, we can arrive at a place where a girl can go to school without experiencing at least every single day some of those that we talk about.
Right.
Now, the challenges for some of the things that we wanted to do for the future, right? That's the question, if I understand. So we wanted to create more partnerships, right, with all kind of work all kind of work that people do in life. For example, in Nigeria here, where we have our field office, the community is very rural. That means that about 80% or so depend on agriculture, right? We want to be able to design program and partnership that will support agriculture, right? We have some techniques in the US, for example, that have been very helpful to farmers over there in the US, right? For simple agriculture, you don't need big equipment in order to succeed in having a better yield, for example, for various crops. We wanted to create partnership with those local farmers to be able to work with our farmers here. We also wanted to create partnership for carpenters and others that can have like hands-on jobs and make sure that those people are able to help, not help, but transfer their skill, their knowledge to those people, and together these people can solve their problems and be able to provide for the community and in the process develop.
Right. So some of the key takeaways from what we've been discussing today is that skills training is essential in sustainable development and helping people to solve their own problems and maybe assisting with some of those financial resources, but really emphasizing and reiterating the fact that these people have the best knowledge of their own problems and that we are just here to facilitate their own resolutions. Another thing that we mentioned too is that there's been a lot of progress made for women. So those government programs that have been implemented to crack down on sexual harassment or to alleviate some of the financial burdens by reducing tuition fees for girls. That's created a lot of progress here in Togo, but there is still a lot of room to grow. So we're really excited about some of these projects that we're working on with ICPSD and SHE. If you're interested in supporting either SHE or ICPSD, follow the links below in our comments. Again, want to thank all of our sponsors who have made such a difference in some of these girls' lives, and we'll be sharing some more stories